All right, there we go. So starting with our block today, lying on the block with the block under the shoulders. And you can have the legs out straight or in Baddha Konasana, either one. Oh wait, shoulders, there we go. And taking your time, easing your body over the block. Using the hands behind the head, sliding them up the back of the neck, getting hold of the base of the skull and drawing that neck out long and over. And inhaling and exhaling into the upper chest. Stretching out those ribs a little more. Exhale, melting over the block. And then, if you feel inspired to, sending the breath out the arms, stretching them overhead. And inhale and exhale, stretching them wide and back down. For whatever kind of circling you want to do. The hands can come up to the ceiling, and you can come down the center line or up the center line as another option. And even as we might be moving the arms, see if you can prioritize that breath. The inhale and the exhale, carrying the arms around. And taking a few more breaths here, maybe letting the arms come to land somewhere. And then we will finish here to make our way up to sitting. And sitting with the crossed legs, Sukhasana. And using the arms along the side, lengthening up, getting space between the vertebrae, space in the hip sockets. A little shifting. And then landing on those sitting bones, letting the hands come to rest on the knees, pouring down the sides of the neck off the tops of the shoulders. And then let's reach out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips. And breathing those arms up, a little drawing together and down with the shoulder blades as the arms lift. And bringing the hands to Namaste, drawing down the center line, wide elbows, wide, collarbones, thumbs coming into the sternum. Taking a few breaths here, either closing your eyes or just softening them. Inhale and exhale. And that breath becoming a little stronger, a little deeper. And then keeping the hands here in Namaste, keeping the thumbs right to the center, attached to the sternum. We'll twist to the right. Big inhale and exhale. The belly, the waist, the ribs, the shoulders. Don't let the arms slide to the right. And maybe turning the head to the right. And then we'll let the arms move. Press a little harder with the left hand. Pressing that right arm back so your thumbs are headed towards your right shoulder. And coming back to the center. Breathe. And we'll do the same thing to the left. So this first part of the twist is not going to be that big. As we take a big inhale and exhale, twisting left, belly, waist, ribs, shoulders, neck, and head. Don't let the arms slide. Keep those thumbs right in the center. And maybe the head and the neck turn a little more toward the left shoulder. And then going a little more, really pressing with the right hand, letting that left hand move back, thumbs headed toward the left shoulder, a little deeper into the twist. And coming back to the center. Deep breath. Breathing the hands back up the center line. Big reach out wide to the side. And let's change the cross of the legs. And coming forward. Walking the hands out. Inhale and exhale. Really feeling that expansion across the side ribs and back ribs. Pulling the inner thighs out through the knees, making more space for you coming forward. And then feeling the back of the thighs pulling out through the knees as well, all the way from the sacrum and lower back out the knees, making a little more stretch and expansion in the back of the body so you can come over a little further. So one of the interesting things about the forward bend with the knees out to the side positions is we're stretching both the inner thighs and across the inner groin and also across the outer at the same time. And then coming up, unfurling that spine, vertebrae by vertebrae, back up on top of the sitting bones. And let's come around onto all fours. And we will do a few cats and cows. So maybe starting with a couple cats and cows, just very basic, really feeling every part of that spine move as you contract up. And then every part of the spine participating as you lengthen out into the while pausing, just seeing if there's some place that still feels a little dull here. And then continuing. And you can add in a little front and back, a little sideways, any sort of variation you want here once you get going. The elbows can bend, hips can hinge forward and back. You can even go all the way into almost an upward facing dog there. And then we will finish with all of that. And reaching through the fingertips a little bit, really balancing the weight on the hands, wide across the shoulders, a little lift in the core, and we'll lift those knees up off the floor into the beast. So a suspended kneeling. Take a couple breaths there. And then still keeping that almost right angle bend in the knees, hinge the hips back into the crouching tiger. So it's like downward facing dog now, a straight line from the hands to the sitting bones, more or less, but a big bend in the knees. And then slowly straightening the legs, and you hit that first edge of resistance there, and pause, take a breath. Extend a little more, extend a little more. And taking 2 or 3 more breaths here, extending the legs as much as they're willing to go at this moment. And then let's come down, sitting back in child's pose. And sliding forward onto our stomach into the Sphinx. Elbows under the shoulders, reaching out through the fingertips. Pulling forward and up, tailbone down. Reaching back through the legs. Feeling that upper back working, shoulder blades engaged, and then also the front of the body, a little drawing in and up with the ribs. Even though they're still arched there, we're not unarching, we're just not letting them just splat forward. And then coming down to the floor. Let's interlock the fingers, putting the hands behind the head. So my nose is hovering about an inch off the floor. And really pull those elbows wide, press the back of the arm up toward the ceiling. And then see if you can lift that upper body up a little more. Probably won't go far. Try not to push hard with your head against the hands. Lift from the arms, from the upper back, with the head just sort of following the hands. And then lower down, nose above the floor. Let's see if we can do that 2 or 3 more times. So you can come down for a moment if you like. We held kind of long there. And then as you're ready, 3 times, let's say. Inhale and exhale, lift. Inhale and exhale, lengthen down. And once more. And then release the hands. And let's peel ourselves back up to downward facing dog. And then we can do some of our dog walking and things. All right. And let's lift the right leg up, reaching long through the heel. Reaching a little longer. Dog at the high fire hydrant, bending that right knee. Lift the right inner thigh out, the knee up behind you a little more. And through to the lunge. And we'll bring the left knee down, coming up in Jayasana. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. And then reaching the arms around to interlock the fingers behind. One more breath here. Bringing the arms back up overhead. Namaste in front. Namaste into the floor. Straighten up that left leg and then stepping forward into the concave back. Folding over. Take a couple breaths here on the forward bend, lengthening up through both legs. And coming up to standing. Big front body yawn. Pressing the arms down all the way around to Namaste. Take a breath here. Samasti. And then coming back over. Big lift up. And diving over. Concave back, folding over, and making our way back to downward facing dog. Jumping or stepping through the vinyasa or not. So I'm doing kneeling vinyasa for those who don't want to choose. You do kneeling vinyasa. And then we'll just do that same thing on the left. Lifting that left leg up. Taking a breath, expanding a little more. And then bend the knee. Dog at the high fire hydrant. Reaching up through that left inner thigh, right out the knee. And through to the lunge. Bringing the right knee down, coming up in Jayasana. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. And then interlocking the fingers behind, we'll roll out with the shoulders, lifting up and over. One more breath here. Arms coming back up overhead. Namaste in front. And into the floor. Straighten up that right leg, stepping forward. Into the concave back. Folding over. Coming up to standing. Whoa. Coming up to standing. And a big front body yawn. To Namaste in front. And then let's come over once again. Big lift up. And diving over. Concave back, folding over. We're going to do the chair pose. Bending the knees, hinge back in the hips. And then as we reach forward and up with the upper body, really working that upper back, lifting up.
And then let's interlock the fingers, putting the hands at the back of the head, pulling those elbows wide. Feeling that work in the upper back, like when you're trying to lift up off the floor. And then release the arms back and front. And to the floor. Bend the knees more to sit down on the floor. So make sure that block is somewhere you can reach it. All right, and let's do the sitting figure 4. So legs about a right angle there, maybe a little bit more. Crossing the right leg over, reaching through the triangle, holding on across the left knee or behind the thigh, and pulling yourself forward and up. So a little back bendiness at the moment here, lifting the upper chest. And then trying to pull yourself a little more forward and over. And coming up, switching legs, left leg over. And reaching through the triangle, holding on across the knee, behind the thigh, along the shin, whatever's working for you. And then using those arms, pulling that upper chest forward, and a little back bend action here. Really trying to lengthen up. And then we'll come forward. You can readjust where the hands are as needed. Coming up, uncross that left leg. Bring the arms up and we're going to roll ourselves down to the floor. A little tuck in the tailbone, coming down nice and slowly, maybe 4 more breaths to get down. You can hold the legs, put the hands on the floor to help control that. And so once the middle back touches, don't just collapse. Keep going all the way through the shoulders, the upper back, the head there. And then we're on the floor. And let's do the block under the sacrum. So sliding that block under, lifting up, and straightening out the legs. And so going right away for the more active legs, flexing the feet, reaching through the heels, pulling those hip bones up towards your head, arms alongside, cooperating with the block. Taking a few more breaths here. And then we're going to bend the legs again, feet on the floor. So maybe the height block you have here is good enough for you. If you think you could do the bent leg bridge pose with the block a little higher, you could turn it higher. If you have 2 blocks, you have even more options because you can make a little stack. So we don't want to be so high on the block that we feel like we're kind of suspended. You want to be able to press your feet into the floor and lighten up, if not lift an inch or 2 off that block. All right, so finding your place there, and maybe you can get the fingers interlocked around the block or not. It's fine, just press the upper arms down. And take a moment, even though the block might be doing the heavy lifting, as it were, engaging the muscles, cooperating with the block. And we'll do figure 4 dog, picking up that right leg, crossing that over, and then pressing down with the right outer knee and outer thigh, and using that block to keep the pelvis level. Really anchor that left side of the pelvis onto the block as you press down with the right outer knee. And next, let's see about lightening up or maybe even lifting off the block. Pressing into the left foot, little scoop up with the tailbone, lifting up or not. And breathing here. Let's take 3 deep breaths. And then one more. Coming down onto that block again. And then setting the right foot down on the floor. Readjust as needed. And then we'll do the same on the left. Crossing the left leg over into the figure 4. Pressing that outer left knee and outer thigh down. And then using that block where you can really feel where the sacrum is. Keep that right side anchored down so the back of the pelvis stays level. And then really pressing into the right foot to lift up or just lighten up on the block. And we will take 3 deep breaths here. And now we all know we're going to take one more. And we take our one more breath. And let's come back down onto the block. And taking that left leg off. And then we'll take the block out. And we'll go into the bridge pose. Maybe coming down to the floor first. Letting everything reset. Coming back up in that bridge pose with the interlocked fingers underneath now. 2 feet on the floor, 3 deep breaths here. And then one more. And rolling down, vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the we'll pull into the chest with the knees, and we'll make our way back up to sitting. You can take 2 or 3 rolls if you want to do these rolls, and then we'll all meet back up in the standing forward bend. Taking a couple breaths here, lengthening out the back of the body again. And then we're going to come back up to standing and to the front body yawn. Feeling that block under the sacrum for a moment here. And then pressing the arms down and all the way to namaste. Taking a couple breaths here, rearranging hair and clothing as needed. All right. And so we're going to go into Utkatasana again. I should come back over to my side. With the ripply rounding little thing I like to do. So we start in the front body, yawn, lifting up,
And then start circling the arms back, bend the knees, big arch in the back, the arms circle around. We take a little tuck of the tailbone as the arms come forward, and then flatten out that spine. And releasing over, straightening the legs. Concave back, folding over, jumping or stepping back through the vinyasa. Downward facing dog. And let's lift the right leg up, reaching long through the heel. Dog at the high fire hydrant. See if you can feel some of that figure fourness, a little bit more press from that outer right knee up there, wherever that might be. And then through to the lunge. And we're going to come up in the warrior one. So ground that left foot down, rotate the heel in a little. Getting a nice solid base there. And then coming up. And feeling that block under the sacrum, stretching out over the block. Couple more breaths here. The big reach wide and down with the arms, turn into the elephant rider. Pressing those knees out and then finding that pull and push. That push from the outer knee like the figure four there. Pressing the feet into the floor, coming up. We're just going around to the temple pose here. Big lift up. Pulling wide hands to namaste. Pressing those outer knees back. And then tipping forward, straighten the legs. Turn the feet to parallel. Couple breaths here. Turning back to our right lunge. And let's ground the left foot down again. And once more coming up in the warrior number one. And then we're going to circle the arms. So we're going to come forward first. Reaching on a long diagonal forward. Really reach back through that left foot. And then swooping the arms alongside and back. And then they reach wide and pull you back up to the warrior one as that tailbone draws down to the floor. Let's do that twice more. Long reach forward, swooping the arms back. And coming up. And once more. And then a big reach down. Turn into the elephant rider. Give those knees a press out. Coming up, straightening the legs. And then this time, arms to parallel, feet to parallel. And let's rotate the right leg out 90 degrees. And into the warrior two. Feeling a little bit of that press out with that right outer knee. And then the tailbone forward, and your pelvis might not be literally level across the back, depending on hip flexibility, but we're thinking of that pelvis being level there, flat against the wall behind us.
And then dancing warrior. Press that right outer knee back a little more. Windmilling down to the floor, and then stepping back to the plank through the vinyasa downward facing dog. Breathing there, downward facing dog, or maybe coming down into child's pose. And then here we all are in downward facing dog, and we'll do all that leading with the left leg. So let's lift the left leg up. And dog at the high fire hydrant, feeling that press away of the outer left knee, almost figure four like. And through to the lunge. Coming up in the warrior number one. So taking your time, getting that base of the warrior one, grounding the feet, and then coming up, big circle of breath. Up the front, down the back. Thinking about that block on the sacrum. Here too, we're thinking of the back of our sacrum nice and level, but it's probably not. The right side's probably a little bit pulled back and twisted a little bit to the right, but we're thinking level. And then bringing those arms down and turn into the elephant rider. Pressing those knees out with the arms and then also pressing out with your own muscles on the back. And straightening up. So this time we're coming to the temple pose. Expand a little more in our three-pointed star. And then into the temple pose. Pulling the knees wide, hands to namaste in front. And releasing over. Straighten up the legs. Turn the feet to parallel. Taking a few breaths here. And then turning back to the left lunge. And we're coming back to our warrior one. Grounding that right foot down. Coming up. And then a circling around. So we're going to start forward, reaching on a long diagonal forward. Pause there a couple breaths, really reaching back through that right foot. Strong core and back. And then swooping the arms alongside, reaching back, and then they reach wide and pull you back up to the warrior one as that tailbone scoops down and forward. Let's do that twice more. Reaching long, swooping up. And once more. And then bringing those arms down, turn into the elephant rider. Pressing the knees out, pulling the knees back. And coming up to the three-pointed star, straightening the legs. And then arms parallel, feet parallel. And let's rotate that left leg out 90 degrees. And into the warrior two. And then we're thinking as if the pelvis across the back here and across the front were perfectly level, which it's perhaps not. For most of us, there'll be a little pull of the left hip to the left, but we're thinking level, finding that balance point for our flexibility, and then pressing that left outer knee back. And dancing warrior, bringing the left arm up and over. And a big windmill down. Stepping back to the plank, through the vinyasa, downward facing dog. Three deep breaths here. Coming down, sitting back in child's pose. And let's come back up to downward facing dog. And going through the vinyasa or not. And then here we go. Let's lift that right leg up. And we'll take a hover plank, knee center and forward. And then lifting that right leg back up. And dog at the high fire hydrant. And then we'll take a hover plank to figure four dog. Hover plank once again, this time coming back to figure four dog, crossing that right shin over the bottom of the left thigh. Couple breaths here. And then stepping through to the lunge. Take a little arch up to try to make room or just get it there. Let's come up in the warrior one once again. Circle of breath. And then let's take our arms the other way, bringing them back first. And then a big reach forward. And coming up. And doing that twice more. And we'll finish in the warrior one. And let's go right up and over to the warrior two. Make sure that right knee got in alignment, checking that. Dancing warrior. And we'll go to the triangle, Trikonasana, straightening out that right leg. Landing with that right hand where it lands. Expanding everything out from there. And then reaching with that left arm over the ear. Then we're going to take the left arm all the way back and around. Nice big circle for our left shoulder. Coming back down to the lunge. Stepping back to the plank, through the vinyasa or not. Downward facing dog. Or child's pose. 3 deep breaths. And then let's do that all on the left. Lifting that left leg up. And hover plank knee center. Lifting it up again. Dog at the high fire hydrant. And hover plank. And this time back to figure 4 dog. Crossing the left shin over the right thigh. We usually say ankle and knee, but it's not technically the ankle and knee. Few breaths here. And then to the lunge. Coming up in the warrior number 1. And here we go, circling the arms the other way. Reaching back. Reaching long and forward. And coming up strong back. And then twice more. Keeping that breath going. And then we'll finish with that. And a little up and over into the warrior number 2. And checking that alignment, especially left knee tracking over the left foot. Dancing warrior, bringing that left arm up. And into the triangle, Trikonasana, hinging over. Reaching out wide, tilting. Left hand lands where it does, which doesn't mean in the next few breaths it doesn't get a little lower. And then we'll bring that right arm over the ear, feeling that long and flat line on the right side, trying to press it up against the ceiling. And then a big reach around with that right arm, coming back down to the lunge, stepping back through the vinyasa or not. Downward facing dog. 3 deep breaths here. And coming down, sitting back in child's pose. And calming up. So let's sit in simplified virasana. Or, so you can sit on the heels, that's what simplified virasana is. Or if you've got that block handy, and you want to put the block there between the feet, probably the long distance, so that when you come down, the sitting bone sits nice and solidly on that block, each sitting bone. And then taking a moment, really feeling the shins lengthening back, tops of the thighs through the knees coming forward, lifting up through the top of the head. So being very attentive and focused in this relatively simple pose. Well, relatively simple. Simple doesn't necessarily mean it's easy for you. It might be a big challenge for the knees, the thighs, the front of the foot. And then let's reach out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips, breathing those arms up, lifting all the way up through the core. Hands come together, namaste in front. And we'll take a twist to the right. Same thing, keeping the thumbs right there at the sternum. Inhale and exhale, lifting up the belly, the waist, the ribs, the shoulders, the neck, and the head. And then let the arms move, pressing that left hand into the right head, the sort of the right shoulder there with the thumbs. And then with great relief still in the twist, release the hands, one hand down the leg. Maybe that right hand reaches the floor. You can also reach around and hold your block there. Or hold onto your left foot. And back to the center. Yes, especially if we're sitting up on the block, sometimes that floor is kind of far away. Let's do the same thing to the left. Breathing those arms up. Hands coming together, drawing down the center line, lengthening even more through the top of the head. And then we will twist to the left. Inhale and exhale, not moving the hands, just using the strength in the core. And then pressing with that right hand into the left, letting the hands slide across toward the left shoulder, deepening into the twist. And then release the hands, one hand on the leg, one on the floor, maybe getting the corner of the block or your right foot. Using the arms to stretch a little deeper into the twist. Coming back to the center. Deep breath. And let's come up onto our knees, making those knees hip distance apart. And we'll Ustrasana, the camel pose. You can wrap the thumb and index finger on the hips, or maybe do the fingertips pointing down, lifting up and over. Another thing nice about the fingertips pointing down one with your hands on your butt there is you can sort of think of that block under the sacrum. Your hands are that block, helping to level the pelvis. Keep it supported as you lift up and over. And if your hands can reach your heels, taking them there. And remember too, you can always come out of the pose and regroup and go back in. Let's take 3 more deep breaths here.
And then one more. And coming up very mindfully, lots of core strength. Calming down, and we'll make our way down to the floor, headed towards Shavasana, with not enough time on the clock, but that's okay. We don't want to be the slaves of the clock, right? Let's come down onto the floor. But it is, as you've probably noticed, amazing how much time there can be if you just do things efficiently and with focus. All right, let's see. We're lying on the floor. Let's take one more figure 4. Crossing the right leg over the left. Reaching through, pulling that in. Inhale and exhale. Halfway into Shavasana. And then we will switch legs, crossing the left leg over, reaching through the triangle, pulling that in. Inhale and exhale. Now we're 3/4 of the way to Shavasana. And then setting that down, sliding the legs out straight into Shavasana. So we've only got that short distance to go. Inhale and exhale, and here we are. Or rather, here we're not. Sinking inside yourself, leaving that body behind, just coming to rest in the wave of the breath. And then breathing back into your body, into this room. Moving the fingers and toes, getting the circulation going, maybe circling the wrists and the ankles. Stretching the arms up overhead. And go bend the knees. Rolling onto your sides, making your way up to sitting. And sitting in any comfortable position with that long and spacious spine. Taking a few more moments, sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming. Let me get the stop record here.